There was a time, not long ago, when America was the dream destination. From the glowing billboards of Times Square to the winding trails of Yosemite, from the jazz echoes of New Orleans to the beaches of Miami, the United States offered something for everyone. But now, something's changed. It's not dramatic at first glance. Airports still bustle, hotels still light up, but quietly, subtly, the world is turning away. Not out of hate, but disappointment. Not because America is unsafe, but because it no longer feels welcoming. This isn't a boycott made in anger. It's a silent shift happening flight by flight, plan by plan, conversation by conversation. In this documentary, we'll explore the 10 countries where tourists are now actively rejecting the U.S. We'll uncover why they're staying away, what they're choosing instead, and what it means for America's tourism economy. Let's begin. Number 1. Germany. For decades, Germans ranked among the top international visitors to the United States. Meticulous planners, culturally curious, and generous spenders, Germans weren't just tourists, they were adventurers. But in the past 3 years, the German fascination with the U.S. has faded fast. Why? Part of it is cost. The euro has struggled against the dollar, making American trips significantly more expensive. But more importantly, it's the atmosphere. Travel surveys in Berlin and Munich point to a rising discomfort with U.S. gun culture, political polarization, and what's often perceived as a lack of hospitality toward foreigners. Even the infamous U.S. visa wait times have become a deterrent. While Germans can travel visa-free, increased scrutiny at customs has created anxiety, especially for older travelers. And so they're heading elsewhere. Portugal, Japan, South Africa, places they once considered second picks have now become favorites. What we're seeing is not rejection with a bang, it's quiet erosion. And it started with the Germans. They're number 2, Brazil. Few countries romanticize the U.S. the way Brazil once did. New York was a symbol of dreams. Orlando was practically a rite of passage for Brazilian families. And Miami? It felt like a second home. But that love story is unraveling. Brazilian travelers now report feeling unwelcome, even judged, at U.S. ports of entry. Visa rejection rates have climbed, and U.S. embassy interviews can take months to schedule. Add to this a weakened Brazilian real, a $250 U.S. tourist visa fee, and aggressive airline prices, and the dream turns into a logistical nightmare. It's painful, because Brazilians still want to love America, but the feeling, they say, no longer feels mutual. Today they're heading to Argentina, Spain, and Dubai instead. The economic impact? In 2019, Brazil sent over 2 million tourists to the U.S. That number has now halved, and it's still falling. Number 3. South Korea. South Korea was once one of the U.S.'s most dependable sources of tourists. Young, tech-savvy, and global-minded, Korean tourists spent generously on shopping, shows, and experiences. But in 2025, something feels different. A growing number of South Koreans, especially millennials, say the U.S. feels cold. Not just the temperature, the vibe. Reports of racial profiling, anti-Asian sentiments, and general rudeness at airports have reached Korean media. And while the U.S. State Department talks up partnership with Korea, the tourist experience tells a different story. Today, Seoul-based travel agencies push Europe and Southeast Asia more aggressively. Paris feels exciting. Thailand feels relaxing. The U.S. feels tense. And with Japan just a 2-hour flight away, many Koreans feel no need to cross the Pacific for uncertainty. Number 4. India. For generations, America held a special place in Indian hearts. It wasn't just a destination, it was a fantasy. Hollywood, Silicon Valley, Niagara Falls, India embraced the U.S. like no other. But in recent years, that magic has dimmed. Even wealthy Indian tourists now struggle with lengthy visa interviews, unpredictably denied entries, and rising anti-immigrant rhetoric across certain states. Indian influencers once flaunted trips to California and Las Vegas. Now they're exploring Turkey, Mauritius, and Italy. More welcoming, more affordable, and less bureaucratic. To be clear, Indians haven't fallen out of love with America, they've just grown tired of chasing it. Number 5. Canada, the neighbor that's walking away. It sounds unthinkable, Canada rejecting the US? But the data doesn't lie. Canadian tourism to the US has dropped by over 30% since 2022, and it's not because Canadians can't afford it, it's because they no longer feel comfortable. Rising healthcare costs, chaotic urban environments, and border tension have all contributed, but most of all, it's the guns. In survey after survey, Canadian travelers cite safety as their top concern. They feel the US is no longer a safe place for families. So they're choosing Europe, the Caribbean, and even remote domestic retreats over American cities. Number 5. Canada. It sounds unthinkable, Canada rejecting the US? But the data doesn't lie. Canadian tourism to the US has dropped by over 30% since 2022. And it's not because Canadians can't afford it, it's because they no longer feel comfortable. Rising healthcare costs, chaotic urban environments, and border tension have all contributed, but most of all, it's the guns. In survey after survey, Canadian travelers cite safety as their top concern. They feel the US is no longer a safe place for families. So they're choosing Europe, the Caribbean, and even remote domestic retreats over American cities. If the US wants to recover not just its tourist dollars, but its role as a symbol of openness, it will have to do more than fix policies. It will have to rebuild trust. One traveler at a time.